welcome to this edition of Crossover. I'm Chi Xiaojun with Charlotte and Lily. Happy New Year again to you too, and Happy New Year to our audience.
Yay!
It's New Year's time, and so what do you do for the New Year's season?
Eat a lot, and then go shopping, and then go visit our relatives, and also maybe go to fairs.
Fairs.
The temple fairs.
The temple fairs. Have you been to any temple fairs?
One of the best, one of the things that I love most about Chinese New Year.
So do you do it every year? Do you go to temple fairs every year?
You still go now?
Absolutely.
Do you have a favorite one? Because in Beijing there are quite a few.
My favorite actually is at Dongyue Miao, which is just in town. It's not a big temple. I think it's a Taoist temple. And the temple fair they have at Spring Festival it's not too big because the temple itself isn't that big, but they have every year there's this guy there who
So
has.
it's more about this guy then.
Well, but he has this because the whole thing. Well, we'll get into temple fairs and what they are, but he has this. It's almost like an obstacle course that he has set up. And he has little mice. And he makes the little mice run the obstacle course. And it is the cutest thing. And every year we'll go and watch. If you give him, I don't know, five maybe or something, he'll make the mouse run the course for you. And in climbing ladders and getting in the little elevator. And it's so cute.
Because when I was in university, because I'm from the South and I studied here for my university education. When I was in the university, I heard a lot about these temple fairs and I thought, wow, I mean, for the New Year celebration, temple fairs, I must go to a temple fair.
Have that in
Well, I've been there now.
No, but in your hometown.
We didn't have that.
No,
we don't have
I
that
thought
actually
temple
in my
fairs are
hometown.
like everywhere.
No, it's not. It's very much like in Beijing. I don't know, maybe in the north
Well, in
part.
Shanghai, definitely.
Nanjing is very much about North culture.
Okay.
And in the South, we don't have that. I don't remember we have something like that in the South. We are seeing some pictures of the temple fairs.
So crowded.
In Beijing, very much so.
So many people.
Oh, it's so
that's
crowded.
the religious ritual. Because originally, back in the ancient times, I think the temple fair actually was originated by the development of the Buddhism and Taoist in China. So it was really when a major ritual is happening or when people want to go and offer their incense. And that's when people would gather with their peddlers selling food, having games to play with.
And traditional crafts.
Oh, yes,
It's at temple fairs at Spring Festival is when you find a lot of like traditional Chinese like handicrafts and things like that for sale that you might not be able to find the rest of the year.
Right, yeah.
I mean, it's all these businessmen, they're there to do business where whenever they find some place crowded with people, they would go there. And I guess that's very much the beginning of the forming of temple fairs. Because if the government was organizing at the time, in ancient times, if the government or the royal family, they were doing something like offering sacrifice to the god of heaven, god of earth.
Yes.
And also, the rituals, the ceremonies, and people would gather around. When people were there, business is there. So the peddlers, they would also come here for business. And that's actually the beginning of the temple fairs.
And actually, back in the ancient times, some of the temples in Beijing were actually forbidden for the ordinary people. So the temple fair was about the only time when people could actually come into areas around the temple. So that's why people will really have to take this chance,
Really
make sure
excited.
that they have to come.
Right. And now, today, temple fairs are really it's kind of almost like a carnival.
Yeah,
or
it's like a local carnival.
Or a fair. It's just a fun place to go and see things and have fun and eat good food.
But there's still certain periods when we would expect something like a temple fair, like in the New Year's season. Mainly, and actually during the New Year's season.
No, I have to say that because I think in different places in China, actually, temple fairs might happen in different times of the year. The temple fairs are held according to different festivals on the lunar calendar. For example, in Shanghai, we had this Longhua Temple Fair when we have this Longhua Pagoda and this Longhua Temple, and that happens in the 3rd lunar month every year, because supposedly when we have this local legend, when the peach blossom are in full bloom, then the dragon would actually come down here and answer people's prayers. So that's when you go to the temple and pray and then start a fair.
I guess the different gods, they would take turns to answer the calls from people on earth. So different festivals for different periods. And in Beijing, in the north part of the country, lots of people would treasure the chance to have the first incense burned, actually. And the first day according to the lunar calendar
of the new year.
That's supposed to be very, very auspicious.
Remember, there is that Lama temple in Beijing, Yonghe Lama temple. That was actually the former residence of one of the Qing dynasty emperors, Yongzheng.
And people started to queue up like after midnight, and in order to become one of the first ones that can get in and off their incense.
Yeah, and that's why lots of people would get up very early. The first incense is supposed to be very important. As you say, I mean, there are so many calls from the people, and the gods must be very busy.
Only take the first 100, maybe.
First come, first serve.
Exactly. It's like you're sending CVs to all these companies, and you don't know which CV will reach to the HR manager, and you have to be early, and you have to be different. And your incense must be very big and very thick.
And I've heard actually one of the temple in Beijing a few years ago, they actually auctioned the first incense on the first day of the Lunar New Year. And I don't know how much was that. It was eventually down to, I don't know, maybe tens of thousands of yuan, or maybe more than that.
Wow.
Maybe hundreds of thousands of yuan. But it was a company that eventually bought this first chance of offering
It's
the
like
incense.
a donation to that place,
to
the
temple.
Anyway, I mean, it's called temple fairs, but lots of these temple fairs are not actually happening anywhere close to a temple.
It's true. That's true.
Yeah.
That's actually, you're very right. They don't always have to happen in temples, but originally they did, and so I think that's why they're continued to be called
temple fairs.
Temple fairs, even though I think there's a big temple fair in Beijing that's just held on a piece of on a street. It's again nowhere near a temple.
Right.
But when it does happen around a temple or around a pagoda or something, the people would actually choose to go inside the temple to visit. Sometimes, you know, they offer their incense and pray. Other times, just to visit. Like there's this White Cloud Taoist temple in Beijing, the Baiyingguan. People would go in there during the New Year and touch the stone monkeys. There were 2 or 3 stone monkeys carved inside that temple, and the monkeys were supposedly to be the incarnation of gods. That's why it's very lucky if you touch them. And people would actually have to queue up in order to touch the monkeys.
We have a back picture actually showing you, because, you know, which direction you should be going.
See?
Well, I mean, it's written in Chinese, but they say if you want to touch this stone monkey, go that way.
Please line up at the eastern gate to touch the stone monkey.
So it's also something to do other than the fair itself. It's something that you do when you go along with a temple fair.
And just now we saw another picture with, you know, the huge coin.
Golden
and
coin.
there's a bell hanging in the middle of that coin, and you're supposed to use a smaller coin to hit the bell in the middle. If it hit the target, that will bring you good luck.
But to me, the fun part about the temple fair is, number one, the snacks, the local food, and then the performance.
Take your time, think about it. You know, some interesting stories about temple fairs. I know, take your time. We are going to take a short break, and we are talking about the temple fairs happening in Beijing, or actually in China. You're watching Crossover. We'll be right back. And welcome back to Crossover. We've been talking about temple fairs in Beijing and in other parts of the country. If you want to watch the previous episodes of Crossover, you can always log on to this website. And if you want to send us comments about the topics, about the discussions, you can always send us emails or log on to this website, sending us the video version of your comments. You can always talk to us through videos.
Nice magic fingers.
Yeah, this
Yes.
is very, very
Maybe
powerful.
you can do that in the next temple fair. In
So
this
what do we
website.
do? What can we do in a temple fair?
You eat and shop
Let's
and
talk
watch
about
performances.
snacks.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
let's start with the snacks.
Okay.
I think my favorite memory of going to Nanjing's various temple fairs, but Nanjing always has a big temple fair at Fuzi Miao,
Yes.
which is a very famous place
The
in Nanjing,
Confucius
the
Temple.
Confucius Temple and its surrounding area. There was always a man there, an older, maybe grandfather, who would make designs in sugar. He'd make basically it was a lollipop, and he'd pour
Syrup?
hot sugar syrup onto this sort of iron cold or marble or cold iron board, and he'd do the most amazing designs, dragons and phoenix and I mean anything you can think of, and then he'd press a little chopstick into the sugar at the base of the design, and then he'd use a spatula to pick it up, and you'd have this beautiful lollipop.
You don't even want to eat it.
No, you don't want to eat it because it's a work of art.
Yeah.
Well, here's a grandma, not a grandpa, but yes, it's just like this. They're beautiful.
This is
these-
this is also sugar, but in a different way.
Right.
They're blown into this shape.
That's right.
Right. I mean, the interesting development is it used to be like monkey canes,
No, but you can still. And now what are they?
Mickey Mouse, maybe.
Or yao maybe.
No, and see, and that was the other thing I loved as a kid. There was always someone there who had what it almost looked like modeling clay.
Yes.
But it wasn't modeling clay. Or Play-Doh. There's another thing, Play-Doh. I think you could technically eat them, but you would never
You
want to
wouldn't.
eat
You
them.
wouldn't.
They're too beautiful and different colors, and he'd make little figures. But the best were the opera figures, because they just make these unreal, like
Detailed.
opera detailed figures with flags and
With sugar
Headbands.
figurings or dough figurines?
dough made
Dough
of
figurines,
dough.
yeah.
Like yes, like this.
面人儿。
I'm so glad we have all these pictures. Just like this, just like this.
It's bringing back all the memories. Not only
beautiful.
your memories, actually, the memories of lots of people
I'm
watching this
sure.
show.
I'm sure.
Actually, I mean,
in Shanghai, actually, we had those little sticky rice dumplings with the guihua kind of flower.
Osmanthus flower.
Yeah, with the flower petals in it, and that just gives a very great taste about it. And also in Beijing, the first temple fair I went in Beijing, I tasted the mung bean milk for the very first time.
Did
It
you?
was quite an
I've never.
experience. It was
Sour?
sour. It was sour and sour. Sour was the only taste I got. Someone
that's-
told me it's supposed to be a little bit sweet. You see, it's always served with pickles. And
It's something like the donuts, but it's
I
not.
think it's actually the remnant of mung beans when it was made into starch. So I think it was back in the old times when people didn't want to waste everything and they started to drink it. But then they told me this is very rich in proteins and vitamins.
You know what?
And it helps you with various problems of
But
the
this
body.
also isn't just consumed at Spring Festival. Like
Not
this
really,
isn't
not really.
specific
This
to
is-
temple fairs.
right.
No, not really. If you go to a restaurant, an old restaurant where they serve this kind of
Beijing.
traditional Beijing food, you'll find something like that.
Yeah.
And I've never tried this. I'm not actually
It was
brave
quite
enough to
hard
try
to
something like
swallow.
that. And I was told the taste.
Very brave.
I swallowed.
And I was told that the taste of that drink was something like, you do dishwashing, right? The leftover water. Just something like that. I don't know. I don't know. To be honest, I don't know.
Bad, I think. It was
And that has become part of the memory of lots of Beijing residents. Many of them left the hometown. They've lived maybe in the States for many years, and when they come back, the first thing
is to have this.
Yes.
Those are.
So I don't know,
That's part
maybe
of their childhood memory.
yeah, if people are watching the show right now and they don't want to take all the trouble to go find an old restaurant, they can actually go to Temple Fair.
This is
week
my
and
favorite. It's cha tang. It's a mix of rice powder with water. So it's like a soup. Kind of
boiling
thick soup.
water.
And what's its flavor?
It can be anything. It's sweet.
Sweet.
It's
yeah,
usually
but
sweet.
you can put all these kind of ingredients in there.
Oh, like peanuts. I can see peanuts.
sesame.
Dried fruits.
And what's special is about this pot, this huge.
With the dragon spout.
Pot.
Yeah. I didn't want
That's
to touch it. It
And-
looks really hot.
And it's
Yeah.
not only designed for the appealing look. It actually has its own function because it's
The dragon?
heavy. It's dry rice powder, right? It needs the power of the water going from somewhere to hit
To mix it.
to mix it to make it
okay.
into a thick kind of soup.
It's beautiful, teapot.
It is beautiful.
Okay. That's
Louis Dapper, rolling donkeys?
Yes, donkeys.
What is that? You explain it. What is rolling donkey?
It just
Sticky
it
rice.
got its name because it resembles when donkeys roll over in the dust and they come up. They're covered in dust.
Right,
and
right.
so that's how it got its name.
That's delicious.
But it's also sticky rice, red bean paste, and it's sweet. It might look suspicious to some people, but it's really quite good, especially if you like red bean.
You know,
Yeah.
many of these popular local food or snacks popular in Beijing, they are actually originally from the Hui ethnic group in Beijing or in northern part of the country.
Yeah.
This is beancurd, tofu.
Yeah, beancurd is something actually originated from the southern part of China. We actually have that a lot. So I'm thinking that maybe if we're not having this New Year time, I might not want to go to an old restaurant and just to look for the snacks. But if you go to Temple Fair, it is a time for we to even eat a lot of those traditional snacks.
I think it kind of falls along the same lines of, say, for example, in the United States, a lot of people will eat turkey on Thanksgiving or Christmas. Now, you can eat turkey whenever you want.
Right.
You can eat it whenever you want, and no one will think you're strange. But it takes on a sort of a different kind of feel when you have it on a holiday.
Feel different.
It feels different. It tastes different. It's just special. So all of these snacks you can get any day of the week, any time of the year.
Yes.
But there's something special about
It's all connected.
Yeah, about a Temple Fair.
Yeah.
It's like
Remember,
we go there, we have to eat this and that.
it's always so cold.
Right,
it's
and you need hot
so
food.
cold, and then you get this steaming bowl of something.
From where I'm from the south in Zhejiang province, where we have that special dim sums, those snacks. It's kind of a dumpling. It's the fillings are sweet. It's sticky rice, and outside it's red rice. It's like the rolling donkeys, but it's only red rice. But inside it's sweet and sticky
Red rice
rice.
or rice
powders.
colored in red, right?
Colored in rice.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's supposed to be something for the new year. It's very, very festive in the
special.
red.
Auspicious.
But actually, you can have it anytime you want during the year. But especially during the new year. If it is not the new year season, when you have it, it's something
has to be like a
usual.
big
It's, you don't
family
really feel
reunion.
special about it. But when you have it during the new year season, this is part of the celebration of the new year, of the Chinese
it all
New Year.
goes together.
Yeah.
I know, when we talk about food, you have so
I
much to
know,
talk about.
I know.
But okay, break time. We've been talking about temple fairs and what we can do, what we can find during the temple fairs. Maybe in one of the temple fairs in Beijing or in Nanjing or in Shanghai. We'll be right back. And welcome back to Crossover. So we have to move a little bit away from snacks and food. at the temple fairs, and there's so much more going on during the temple fairs.
There are so many to eat, but also much more to see, actually. And I remember there were performances. Some of them are local operas. Sometimes they simply have actors and actresses dressed up in traditional clothes, and then they would perform a religious ritual just for you to see how the Asian people did all that. And then my favorite ones would be like the acrobats, and then puppet shows.
Magic shows, maybe?
Yeah, magic shows. And also, a very popular temple fair performance is people or performances on stilts. People will put stilts
Stilt
on,
walk.
踩高跷, and it's not just walking on stilts, but they do acrobatics on stilts.
And they were dressed in
performances,
traditional costumes.
Traditional costumes.
They would actually dance on the stilts, actually.
It's beautiful, and a lot of them are actually performing troops. Like that, come from out of town,
professionals,
specifically to come to the temple fair to perform.
Yeah, if you go to this temple fair in the morning and then another one in the afternoon, you'll see the same group performing.
Stilt shows actually were usually are the most popular shows on temple fair because they're so easily to be seen from a far distance. There are millions of people in the fair. If you're doing magic, maybe only 30 people around you could see, but still walk, you can see it from like 20 meters away and then cheer for them.
That's true. And the other thing I think also is they always have gongs. That,
take the attention.
Which is, it's a very, it's their backup music basically. And that's a very loud sort of call to everyone, please come watch, gong, gong, gong.
And what about those interactive games, those little games you can always participate in and winning something?
I don't know, like shooting guns and
throwing
balloons.
a hoop.
Yeah, throwing hoops and trying darts.
And you see those, big ball where you will see all these balloons.
Yeah, and you throw the dart.
Or either darts or little gun, actually.
Yes.
You shoot it, and when you reach like 10 or 12, then you win something.
Yeah. Oh, that's throwing the loops. Yeah. And
explain the rules, Lily.
It's like you throw a loop and make sure if it can actually stay on one of the items, and then you can win the item. But
it's not only staying on. It makes sure the item is in the middle of that loop.
Oh, really? Okay.
Of the hoop.
And the hoops that they give you to play with, they're not that heavy because it's like they're made out of branches almost. Something that's very flexible and light. So it's kind of tricky, actually.
I know. It's a game, and it's business anyway.
Well, true. Yeah, they can't have everyone winning.
And you're not really there to win something that's not part of the fun.
Just throwing them for fun.
Yeah, the process where the fun is.
Yeah.
And because it's so many people, so crowded in temple fairs, it can also be a business opportunity for a lot of people.
Very lucrative.
Yeah.
And to fight for a stand, actually, it's another game. And sometimes you have to do it through auctions again. It's just open and fair. The auction price for one stand, maybe the best one.
In
a
Beijing?
temple fair?
In a temple fair, maybe one of the biggest one.
Okay.
In 2010, it's $500,000, a little bit more than $500,000. For that, maybe
stall?
A period of one stall.
How long? Like
for
20
maybe
days?
half a month? 15, 20
the
days.
15 days of New Year.
Really?
Yep.
So, but can they really make a profit at this cost?
And the total revenue, $3 million. So the profit rate is like 45%.
That's not bad. Well, if you think about it, I mean, if you want to experience crowds and just people, you go to a temple fair because there's just, and part of the attraction for some people for going to a temple fair, especially during holiday time, is the atmosphere. You want that atmosphere of lots of people and food and smells and
if it is a big temple fair and if it is only 10 people wandering around, you don't really get it.
It's like
all of your senses are open. There are people punching you maybe because it's too crowded and the smell of food.
And we are anyway used to crowded places anyway.
With so many people in China. Anyway.
Right.
I remember in high school, the street outside our school was a main street for Temple Fair. So every time during March, it's always sometime March or April sometime when we had the Temple Fair on that street, we would actually sneak out of the school during the class breaks, sometimes even during classes for some of the boys, to just have a stick of barbecued lamb, or maybe to play one of those shooting games, and then sneak back into the classroom. and during that time, it's usually two weeks long, the Temple Fair. It was so hard to keep concentrated.
I'm sure your teachers
you have
dreaded the coming of the Temple Fair.
The noise is coming out of the windows, the smell of food going on.
And when you turn around, hey, teacher.
Fancy seeing you here.
Yeah.
Right. And what else? I mean, there are so many different kind of temple fairs in Beijing, because these years temple fairs are not only about religion. It's more about the tradition. Sometimes it's new tradition.
Yeah.
And when you find so many temple fairs in the same city, you have to be different. You have to differentiate yourself from the rest of these temple fairs, and that's why we see. If we take only Beijing as an example, we see so many different types of temple fairs.
Yeah, and in the southern part of China, like in the Guangdong provinces, where they would usually do dragon dances, lion dances, because that's what they like. And in the maybe the northwestern part of China, they will have these waist drum dances, because that's quite typical of areas around that place.
In Shanghai, what about in Shanghai?
In Shanghai, it's different food and different way. And also during the Longhua Temple Fair, which I was talking about, there would be people selling the peach blossoms, the flowers.
Okay.
So little girls, you would hold a little branch with peach blossoms on it and just hold it all the way.
Walk around.
It's warmer in the south.
One thing we haven't talked about is lanterns. Temple fairs.
Yes, lanterns.
I remember in Nanjing, I can't really think in Beijing so much, but in Nanjing, the temple fair at the Confucius Temple around Spring Festival time, because it goes for 2 weeks, pretty much, from the first day of Spring Festival to the last day of Spring Festival, which is also known as Lantern Festival.
Yes.
They just have amazing lanterns in different
So everyone would hold a lantern.
Different designs, big, small. Some are animals, especially this year it's Year of the Rabbit, so I'm sure we'll be seeing lots of rabbit lanterns.
Oh yes.
Just beautiful.
And there is one amusement park in Beijing. They were having something like international temple fairs. What do they mean by that? It's basically they take in the concept of a carnival in the West and also the temple fair.
And mix them.